Hey everyone, Matt Calderoni here, co-host of the Difference Maker podcast. Really quick ask, we need your help. So here's the thing, we take the time each week to put these episodes together with the genuine intent to help people discover and reach their true potential, just like yourself, so you can get to that next level in life. All we're asking for is a quick subscription or, a like, a review, a comment, something that helps grow this channel and helps us boost that algorithm. We don't do any kind of paid advertising for this. We don't do any real marketing other than through our social media channels. We're genuinely here to help people and to help you. So if you can, leave us a quick rating, leave us a quick review, subscribe if you're tuning in on YouTube, and we'll see you in the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Difference Maker podcast. I'm your host, Matt Calderoni, with your other host, Chris Calderoni, co-founders of Molliteum. Super excited to be back on this one. We took a little bit of a break just to do some updates. We've been updating our YouTube channel, which I'm not going to say too much yet, but we're, announcing and going to be having a cool little launch that we have. We're updating our newsletter to bring more value. So we took some time and put time into that. And then finally, we took some time to actually completely revamp our resilience profile. So I'm excited to talk about those innovations for these products, in the next couple weeks, but glad to be back. Glad to dive into this one. This is a bit of a triggering topic for me and one that I'm excited about.
Yeah, it should be good today. And I was thinking, so if you are listening to us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to us and make sure you're also there on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anything else, just because we're going to be bringing out stuff every week for you guys. So check it out. It's going to be good.
Diving into this week's, this was an interesting, actually, something that came across kind of our desk being in the weeds this week, which was one that we felt we really had to talk about, because I feel like this is a topic that a lot of people misconstrue, a lot of people don't understand properly, and a lot of people kind of wait until it's too late. So I was talking to an agent who's one of our friends, a sports agent, and we just helped one of his clients going through a challenging time. And I said to him, and it struck me when I was lying in bed, I said, you know what? I sent him a note, or a text, what if we could prevent this from happening? Our big MO here at Molliteum is to bring resilience to the world, and we're a product that we want to try and prehab things. So we don't want to wait until the moment of crisis. We want to provide those skills early, just like you would physically, right? You don't wait until you tear a muscle, at least I hope you don't, to start training your body in the gym. So I was talking to him and I said, we can do this awesome thing at camp. We can help profile these kids, and then what we can do is send a report to the parents, and the parents can decide, these are the tendencies that your kids have. This is what you need to do better with. This is how you can, speak to them and communicate. This is the role. If you want to talk further, we can set up a call with us. So he goes, yeah, that's a great idea. He goes, only thing though, Matt, I don't know if this mental thing, I feel like it's too early for some kids to grasp. And that's when it kind of struck me, and I was like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And he goes, well, some kids are just too young to really understand the mental side. I was like, whoa. I said, so let me ask you something though. Do you feel that some kids are too young to grasp the physical side? He goes, no. I said, why not? He goes, because of the way it's taught. I said, correct. And that's exactly what it is when it comes to the mental training aspect. Just because you have a negative connotation, or most people do a lot of times, where it's you only train the mental side when kids are going through something. It's the kid doesn't have to go through something. We can prehab it. Yeah. And it was what I was saying to my friend who's an agent. I was like, I actually disagree with that. I actually think that you should be teaching kids from a younger age how to properly think like a high performer, build those values, if you will, or not even like a high performer, but just somebody who goes after what they want.
Well, sorry, right? Hockey agent. So one thing to grasp, and I can understand that, but it really does come back to how it's taught.
Absolutely.
Because just looking at, from his perspective, hockey, that's a very tough sport to learn. Just skating in itself and trying to balance. You teach them at a young age.
Yep.
And it's all based around, I think if it's structured, if it's built to the age of the individual that you're speaking to,
spoken in the language of that individual,
in the language, right? It can be done. It's just how it's done. And yeah. I think that's where a lot of people can get intimidated by it, because you always hear about all these concepts of, you have to be of certain age to talk about mental health and this and that and everything else, which is completely I understand there are some topics that 100% yes, and being able to grasp it. But if you can convey that message to a young individual that they can understand and learn, they're getting set up for success way before other people, like you said, until there's a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and even that, like, I think this is where a lot of people get the messaging wrong. Because in today's episode, we're actually going to unpack all that, like what they should be learning at a younger age, how you should be interpreting it with them, how you should be teaching it to them, you know, what to do, what not to do. Like, we're gonna unpack all of that in today's episode.
Yeah.
But my point is, and to Chris's point too, you really have to understand, like, we're not trying to teach kids about suicide. You're not trying to teach kids about, you know, if you're falling into a depression. Do kids know what it means to be depressed when they're young? Not really. They know what it means to be sad sometimes. They know what it means to be disappointed. But the majority of children, I'm not saying all, some are that other case where they do, but majority don't have that awareness. Majority have that understanding that they're just there to play their sport. Now, if we can build confident individuals who are focused, individuals who are having fun, individuals who know how to make a mistake and laugh about it, that's mental.
Yeah.
Right? That's mental. Because here's one thing that a lot of these agents sometimes forget, or parents or coaches even, whether or not anybody knows it, these kids make jokes with one another, right? And it's a normal thing. It's a normal part of the process. So the easiest thing to make a joke about is not necessarily when someone scored a goal. It's easier to make a joke about how you missed the net.
Well, that's one of the philosophies of Carlo Ancelotti. He was saying, like,
that's a soccer coach.
That's a soccer coach. Very fantastic. Right as of right now, he's with Real Madrid. But one of the things that came up in an interview that I just listened to recently was, I don't coach players. I coach men that play football.
Yep.
So there's a very big difference between who or how you're trying to coach them. Like, if you don't understand that you're coaching a person first, then you can run into intimidating issues.
Yeah.
And before, like, it's just from the coach itself and from people that don't necessarily understand the topic, it doesn't need to be intimidating. It's just, how can it be framed in a way that, first off, it doesn't seem like a world-ending problem for you, and second, what are the skills that you can learn in order to help you overcome those issues?
Yeah.
Not even issues, those roadblocks in the way.
Those
it's like
challenges.
It's learning how to reverse hit in hockey. Like, it's a skill. It's a learned skill.
Well, I even look at it too, and like a big thing that we focus on in our programs with all of our clients, but specifically the youth, we actually look at youth mental training, if you will, as giving them blueprints, right? So every kid needs to know a blueprint on how to build confidence. They should, as a kid, right? Confidence comes from understanding what you want to, get better at, putting repetition in, learning about it, training yourself, being able to understand it. That's where that confidence comes from, the repetition and getting the results. Kids should have a blueprint for that.
And then frame it in a way that they understand. Like, one great episode of The Office was when they were on the bus and they were working mobile. And I think one of the questions they were trying to figure out, they were running out of gas and they had to get to this pie stand.
Yeah.
And Kevin Malone,
who's a bigger fellow on the show,
he can't do the math, but when it was framed in how many pies would it take in order to get there, he would nail it.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's exactly it. And that's why, like we're saying, it's blueprints, right? It's giving kids blueprints. Like, simply telling a kid, hey, you actually just need to focus on yourself. Don't worry about everything else. That's a great way to look at things.
Yeah,
that's a blueprint.
Blueprint and tailor.
Yeah,
blueprint and tailor.
absolutely.
And just repeat that. Right?
So let's dive into that tailoring and these blueprints, because this is where it's important. The first thing you need to understand, if we're going to get through to these kids, it's mindset, right? So what does that mean? Mindset. Look at the words and break it down. Set your mind to what you want. So here's the thing. We know that kids are most impressionable between the ages of 1 to 7 years old. Do kids between the ages of 1 to 7 years old, for example, need to learn how to visualize? No. Do they need to learn how to, deeply meditate? Not really. Do they need to learn how to journal? Not really. What they do need to learn, though, how to make choices and focus on what they want. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. They need to know how to focus on one thing and work until they accomplish it. They need to learn. They need to learn values at the young age of what it means to put the work in and reap the rewards. They need to understand those kinds of things. Like, for the younger ages, it's more about mindset and in the real terms than it is what, current day marketing has bastardized it for. Everybody thinks mindset is everything under mindfulness and growth mindset and this and this and this and this. It's mindset means setting your mind towards something, right? That's your mindset. What's your current mindset? What is the current set of your mind? How have you tuned it? Are you angry? Did you tune it to being an angry person? That's your current mindset. Did you tune it to being a happy person? That's your current mindset. But at the younger ages, what we heavily focus on with children, and if you're going to do any kind of mental coaching with them, please understand this. The most success we've had, because we work with kids as young as 5 years old so far. We've worked with populations. And I will tell you, one of the most important things we can do with them is teach focusing on principles instead of focusing on techniques. And that's the big distinction, right? We don't need them visualizing. We do need them, though, understanding what skill they want to get better at and working on it for 30 days. That's a principle.
Yeah.
Right? Can you get better at shooting the ball with your right foot for the next 30 days? Can you practice it for 10 minutes? Absolutely. Then go do it. That's building confidence.
And is that something that a little kid will understand? 100%.
Totally. And that's what I mean. That's why it's 1 to 7 years old. Children are most impressionable about the things they believe.
Yeah. And then
right?
what's kind of cool about that, because then you set them up for later on for that aha moment where it's like, holy, this was basically the definition of what this new thing that I'm learning. Like
Bingo.
Target setting or whatever. It's like, oh, you know what? I did that when I was younger.
Exactly. And that's the other thing I was going to say. So the next part that it leads into, another thing we teach at a very young age, is how to understand and build belief in kids. Right? Because what people don't realize is, the reason, so a lot of times people will say, well, where do your self-esteem issues come from your early childhood? And it's like, I heard this the other day. It's like a lot of people are throwing around right now, heal your inner child. It's like, well, hold on. What was it? Forgive your inner child. Okay. First off, forgiving your inner child, that's totally understand what people are trying to say, but let's break it down contextually for a second. Unless your inner child knew something between the ages of 1 to 7 years old that you know now and you knew back then, which I'm going to say for 99.9% of the people tuning into this, you don't, because you learn as you get older. You don't need to forgive your inner child for anything on that. Why? Because you made a mistake when you were younger? Because you didn't know how to respond to the environment when you were younger that you do now? I feel like sometimes we're way too quick, especially with children, to say things like, we got to teach them everything now. It's like, no, you actually don't. You need to teach children the most important things, and that's how to believe in themselves. It's how to do that. It's how to understand, okay, if you're going to be putting a kid in a high-performing environment from 1 to 7 years old, which I will say from watching sports and so on now and being involved in that community, the age range that people are starting to recruit players on now is getting younger and younger and younger. And younger kids are being thrown into high-performing environments at younger and younger ages. I think it was the national team coach for Argentina who just said, why are we teaching kids for soccer? He goes, why are we teaching kids right now to know what their next move is when they're only 7 years old? We shouldn't be teaching that until they're 14. And he's right? But my point is that gap is getting close. It's like, so what do we teach them on beliefs? It's like, well, you have to understand, if you throw a kid in a high-performing environment and they see, because children, what we have to realize is the mind is in a frequency, right? We call it consciousness, but it's in a frequency from 1 to 7 years old where it's constantly scanning and learning from the environment. So if you throw them into an environment where it's a high-performing one and they get in trouble for making mistakes and so on, that becomes part of their core memories. And those core memories then turn into beliefs that they have of themselves.
Okay.
And that's why a lot of people make these mistakes where they don't pay enough attention to the beliefs they're formulating within the children and instead want to teach them all these principles. But it's like, are you teaching the fundamental thing that allows anybody to accomplish anything great in life? Belief. If you are, continue it. If you're not, change it.
Sorry, can you help me forgiving your inner child?
Forgiving your inner child. This is a big thing. This is a really big thing right now. And it's a, I don't know if you want to call it a marketing slang, or maybe it was a term that was meant to help, just, I guess, contextualize things that are going on. But it's basically saying your past traumas you've learned as a child, or the mistakes you've made that now lead to it. So some people get mad at themselves because why couldn't I have been a more confident kid going forwards, right? So it's like, you need to forgive that inner child. And it's like, well, look, unless you knew all about confidence at that age that you now know when you're 30 and you're reflecting on it, or however old you are, I don't really think you need to heal that inner child. I think you need to learn from that inner child.
So people are beating up themselves for not
up.
taking a step when they were younger?
So absolutely. It's like people saying, I wish my parents would have done this when I would have known this. I wish I had an entrepreneur who was a parent so that I would have learned business skills.
So it's just regret?
Thank you.
Or, sorry, am I...
No, you're right. And that's exactly it. So it's like, I know a lot of people tuning in use and put a lot of different meanings to this, but you have to be very careful. This is why I have a problem with the whole heal your past traumas. I'm not saying past traumas aren't, there's a lot of things that come up that are bad. Yes, I'm not arguing that. What I am saying though is you have a choice to move forwards from that, right? And so many times beliefs are learned when you're a child. A lot of them are, but you don't need to beat yourself up for it. You need to recognize it, resolve it, and move forwards.
Actually,
that's it.
For one of the teams that we're working with right now, actually, a goalie, I had a good conversation with him this week, and it was that exact thing. He's like, Chris, I let go a little bit. I played well, but I let go a little bit going into it. I was like, well, a couple weeks ago, you would have really smashed yourself because of that, And he's like, yeah, but I got it this weekend. It's like, fair enough, man. That's good for you.
Yeah, but you're
not leaving that. You're not playing that game that you played before in this new weekend coming up.
Bingo. And this is what we're talking about though with and that's a kid that's 17, 18 years old, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about though with principles over techniques at the younger age. Principles that build self-belief, principles that build focus. So a principle for a kid, it's not going to be, you're not training them focus on this. Instead it's, hey, do one thing at a time. It's not, you need to visualize. It's, hey, let's practice our skills every day. That's what we do. That's a good thing to do, right? It's not, you've got to be you can't make mistakes. It's like, hey, just try your best every time. Like that's principled thinking. That's what in our coaching programs, that's why we design the 12 weeks around it when we work with children. It's designed around principles that then get instilled within them. The Difference Maker podcast is something that Chris and I put a lot of work into, and it's something we love to do for you. So all we're asking in return, please, if you can, leave a review, leave a rating, leave a comment on our podcast. It helps us get ranked higher, and it helps us continue to bring you free content. We're not asking for anything else. We don't do any kind of paid promotion for this. We don't do anything, surrounding it. We're literally bringing you the top free pieces of content that we use with our best athletes to make sure that we can get you the resilient skills they have. So please, if you can, leave a review, leave a rating, make sure to subscribe to us, click the notification bell if you're tuning in on YouTube, leave a comment down below, just help us grow this channel so we can help bring you or keep bringing you free content, right? And that's why we also work with the parents during that time to help instill those in their children, because it's not that you can't teach this at a young age. It's like kids in the gym. Are you going to have them bench press when they're 7 years old, 8 years old? Heck no, that's a dumb thing. Can you teach them though the principles of pushing and pulling in the gym? Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about with this. And the problem with this whole mentality part or mindset or mental coaching, the tools for mental coaching are often through talking in words and audio tracks. And it seems like everybody can talk and use words and audio tracks versus a bench press. Not everybody can bench press 190 pounds to 200 pounds to 300 or whatever. Point is though, you need to build up with that. There's a physical limitation. There is no physical limitation though to how many words you can say a minute, right? So the problem then becomes we're teaching these kids at a younger age. So many people are using super complex topics. Kids don't need that. Kids need principles and to be reminded of those principles frequently. And that's how we do it with kids from the ages of literally 5 until 11 years old. It's principles on principles on principles. Now, some advance, and they do like to use the visualizing at a younger age. I wouldn't say as young as 7, though, but we've had a couple 11-year-old using visualization.
You can get them to focus for that. I mean,
great.
God bless. Man.
Right? But at the younger age, you need to be teaching them 2 things. Number 1, how to build self-belief. And number 2, principles. If you can focus on those 2 things, you're going to be great. So there's a couple go-to that I written down that I would say if you're a parent tuning in, you really want to make sure your youth athlete has this. First one being you need to teach them about constant repetition, right? Like we said, pick a skill. What do you want to get better at this month? That's the best way to do it. And then say, can we practice it at least once a day for 10 to 20 minutes? That's going to teach them the principle of confidence. That's then going to build later on into, hey, remember when you were younger and you wanted to get better at shooting with your right foot and we just did some work 20 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, and you felt better with it? Why don't we do that again? It's the same principle we're using with $100 million NBA, NHL players, right? Point is, though, it's the same basic principle. Principle number 2, you need to teach your kids that if they put their mind to it, they really can do it. And I don't mean just taking that verbatim and saying, well, set your mind and it's going to be good. I mean, like, hey, if you want to work at being, an athlete one day and that's your passion, you need to focus on that every day. It's like me. I always share the story. 12 years old, had a coach told me I couldn't do it. That was the day I knew I wanted to be a pro, and I just focused on it. I learned that principle young, right? The next principle, teach them how to focus on one thing at a time. That's another big one for these guys. Like, so many times I see athletes trying to do 20 different things, and they're with this screen time and such coming out, right? It's hard to focus on one thing at a time now. But the principle of focusing on one by one will do your athlete a world of good. Another principle you want to add in here, teach them that they only need to worry about themselves from a young age, right away. If there's one thing that a lot of athletes who come through our door stressed beyond all belief about is what other people beside them are doing, right? And I'm sure you see it as well, and you see it a lot of times, but it's challenging.
It's not even like what Matt's saying, just worry about themselves and they become these selfish, like,
No.
not talking about that. It's just a comparison to other kids that they see in their vicinity, like in their environment. If you're the one as a parent comparing them to Jimmy, you should be shooting like him or whatever the case may be, that's going to be tough on them. And it just simplifies things for you as a parent too. Like if you're feeling, overwhelmed, buddy can't do this or they can't do that or
Have
whatever.
patience.
It allows you to kind of slow down and understand it in terms that you want to understand it in. And then you can help your kid with that as well.
Absolutely. And another thing I was going to say, that's a principle that comes into play that I had written. Teach them that great things take time to build, right? So many times athletes we see at a younger age get completely frustrated with themselves because it's not happening right now. Teach them from a young age. You just need some patience. Some patience and hard work can get you anything that you want, right?
Yeah.
And it's like these simple little principles that we walk through athletes with and teach them about and teach them, hey, if you want to become that person, focus on being that person. Like, they're really basic principles that don't need visualizing.
Yeah.
But you need to hold a kid accountable to it, right? Like, okay, little John or Jimmy or Sarah or, Megan, did you focus on just getting better today? Did you really focus on that? No, mom or dad, I didn't. Okay, cool. Let's do that tomorrow. See, but that's where it all starts to come into play, especially when they're younger. And that's where it's like, if you can teach a kid these basics on just how to be better, the basics go a really long way. Like, I always hear this in sports, and I'm sure you do too. Sports are great because it teaches life lessons. Well, it doesn't really teach life lessons unless you implement that and are intentional about showing the kid how it's a life lesson, right? These principles, though, are life lessons. To your point about Ancelotti, I don't coach soccer players. I coach men who are footballers.
Yeah.
Right? We're not mental coaching athletes at a young age. We are teaching children mental principles at a young age on values in life. You know what I mean? It's principles and belief about themselves more than it is technique and depth all the time. So it's a big one. And the other thing I'll say and kind of add in on this, a lot of people always ask this question, like, is my kid too young to start mental training? They're too young if you're sending them to the wrong places. I'll say that to Chris's original point. It's how everything's contextualized. But number two, no, if you can get them into a truly good mental training program between the ages of 1 to 7 years old, it's easier to take control of their values and beliefs at that young of an age.
Yeah. I mean, they're learning for some of the young elite athletes that you see, like under 10 years old. I don't know if anyone's ever watched you maybe 8 soccer players on a field when they're in an academy or something like that. But man, some of them can put together like passing plays. Like, they understand all of that.
Yeah.
They understand the structure of the team, how they need to be set up on the field, what ball they need to control down. Some of them are scanning before they even touch. Like, if they can understand that and it's put in a way that's made fun to them, I mean, anyone that finds an interest in whatever topic that is, they're going to go all in on that.
Well, and this is where I was going to say too, like one thing we suggest for all coaches, you don't even need to have, like these are team coaches. You don't need to have, if you're coaching a youth athlete, separate sessions per se to train their mindset. And it's why we actually we'll be announcing this in the next coming weeks, but we're going to be starting a program specifically for coaches at the young level. You need to work it into your dialogue, right? So teaching these kids principles of just being a good person is your mindset training at that young age, right? It's teaching the principles of, hey, that's okay that you made a mistake. Did you learn from it? Yeah. Okay. What did you learn, little Jimmy? I learned this. Great. Let's try that and do it better next time. Oh, you know what? Did you just, Sarah, you fell? Are you okay? Yeah, cool. Notice how Megan, guys, she just went and helped Sarah and picked her up. That's great. Keep going forward. Like that's what we're talking about. Is it an easy task? Absolutely not. It's not an easy task because with kids, you have to realize everything you say is being recorded in their mind. Right. So even if you have a little slip up or whatever, it's not the time to exemplify and, call a kid out and Is there discipline and punishment sometimes you need to use if a kid isn't listening? Absolutely. But there's ways to do that as well. And that's where it kind of segues into my next topic here, which is, what not to do with these kids. First one's being, don't give them complex theoretical things you need them to do. They're not going to care. Right. Majority won't. But it's like the story of Thomas Edison. You ever hear that? His mother?
No.
Thomas Edison wasn't a bright kid in school. This is the example of what it means to teach a kid a principle at a young age of belief and mindset, okay? Mother gets a note from the principal. Principal says, your kid is not smart. He is not welcome back in school.
Okay.
The mother reads the note to herself. Instead, when Thomas says, so what does it say, Mom? Because he couldn't read. She goes, oh my gosh. He goes, what? She goes, your principal said that you're so smart, that you're too smart and too ahead of the curriculum. I need to teach you at home.
Okay.
So he goes, oh, Thomas Edison goes on to become one of the best, most renowned inventors on the planet in history. And when he found that note, when his mother passed, he read the note and he goes, I realized I can't believe it. Look at this note. It said I was stupid. But my mom literally spoke belief into me from such a young age that I just believed I was smart. And it's like, now that's a very good case and it's a different one, but that's the power of speaking belief into children. That's why I'm saying you don't need complex stuff. Not at a young age. That's the first thing you could do wrong. The second thing you could do wrong, and I hate this because I see it all the time, thinking you need to toughen up kids from a very young age. Listen, first off, most people don't even know what the word toughness means.
Right.
Toughness means you can adapt. That's toughness. That's the definition of toughness, adapting to a situation. Toughness is not getting meaner with a kid or teaching a kid how to get more aggressive. Right? That's not toughness. So a lot of times I see coaches go into it and they're like, well, the mental training is we're going to push them hard and we're going to make them tougher individuals. You don't need to do that. Kids are resilient. It's just oftentimes they don't want to be for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Kids are resilient. You tell a kid, hey, little so-and-so, go do this. They go and do it.
And you know what? I think a not a problem, but something that's very hard to go against is the fact that we know toughness as our current day toughness.
Right.
And I don't know if anyone watches the news or anything like that, but it seems like when you get a certain age, you completely forget what it was actually like when you were a child, and you don't know what that toughness is when you're back then. So the toughness now compared to what you had and what you're facing now, like, kids don't need to learn the toughness or the hardships that you are going through currently at that age. It's completely different. And I'm just saying, like, that's a tough thing that everybody falls into sometimes when you're giving your own advice from your own experiences, because either someone else hasn't gone through that, or currently right now what you're going through, they that's not even in their field of play right now.
Well, see, okay, this is a great one to bring up. Having a good conversation with my good friend this past week, Brandon Arado, head coach of Michigan hockey. Okay, and we were talking because we'll throw back and forth in the mornings when he's on the way to the rink or I'm on the way to the office. And this week it came up, and we were saying to each other, like, man, like the topic of, I think it was pain, right? Like how some kids have mental injuries sometimes in a sense where they think they're physically hurt, but it's phantom pain. That's a real thing. And that led us down to a different path. And we got onto the path of this. The current day athlete is different, not because these kids are trying to be, pests or shitheads or smartasses. Think about this for a second. And I was giving him this scenario. When we were younger, we didn't have, I would say, a third of the access that kids do today to information.
Yeah.
Right? We had dial-up internet.
MySpace.
And mom and dad were the only ones that knew the passcode to dial us into the internet. You couldn't use the landline when someone was on the internet.
And our experience.
Exactly. And the problem with that was if I wanted to look something, I couldn't just look something up like a lot of kids can now. So to your point of what you're saying, like the toughness in the current day is not the same as the older days, because look how much we've innovated though. If a kid wants to know something at a young age, they Google it, they talk about it, and that's it. And that's what it led us down the path of it's easier to self-diagnose now. Mm-hmm. Right? Oh my God, I think I have symptoms of this.
Or misdiagnosed.
Right. That's what I mean. Right? I think I have, this problem, and this problem. Oh my God, 5 things. Look at that. That's tough. I was saying to him too, I was like, man, think about it. Even with us and our products, how many people search our company before they even get on the phone to call us? Mm-hmm. Information. We're in the information age. So where kids used to have one choice where you would say, hey, you know what? Johnny, you just need to work on your shot right now. Well, about 10 years ago, it was, well, you could work on your shot or your speed. And now it's, I don't know what you need to work on. Is it IQ? Is it speed? Is it shot? Is it handling? Is it this? Is it this? Because there's so much information out there. It was easier to make one-way decisions, and you had kids that didn't ask as many questions before as now. Mm-hmm. They're asking questions now because they have information readily available. Yeah. Same as the parents, right? Do you remember when we were in that Raptor Ball, it was called?
Oh, yeah.
Right? It was basketball skills from a young age. And every week, this blows my mind. I think we were maybe 12 years old?
I think grade 4.
Okay. Actually. So younger, right? And it's like, we were there, and every week, we had it once a week, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And every week, they would have a competition, and they would give us a question to go home and find the answer to. And I remember this one kid, this little kid, I forget his name, but he was shorter. He was a really good player.
I don't really remember.
Okay. So every week, this kid got the answer every time. Every freaking time. And I was like, how does he know this? And I asked him, I said, how did you get the answers? He goes, I use this thing on the internet. It's called Google. I was like, what the hell is that? And I was like, right? And like going to just check it out. He goes, yeah, it's this crazy toolbar, and you type a question in and it gives you the answer. It's crazy. Like, it's this crazy little bar you type in. But that's my point. And even speaking with Brandon about it, saying like, it's not that kids are challenging you anymore. It's not that they're jerks that way. They have information, and they're curious, and they're asking questions that we never were able to ask before, because if we wanted to figure out the answer, we had to go find a book in the library. And you needed your parent to come take you for a library to get the book if you were under 18 years old with your library card. Right? So my point is, coming back and saying what not to do with these kids, you have to understand, it's not that kids are trying to defy odds or defy you in any way. And you don't need to make them more tough. They're already tough. You need to teach them how to adapt if you're going to do that. You don't need to make them run until they want to puke. That's not how you do it. Right? So that's another big mistake. Another thing that I would not do if I was a parent or a coach, I would not compare my kid to another kid on the field or ice or court or whatever it is. That right away teaches a mechanism of comparison to others.
Yeah.
It's a big no-no.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea for young kids, right? Because then they learn that mechanism. Their internal regulation is, well, what about him or her or that or this? And it's like, can't do that.
And if you have a real troublemaker, they're going to take that kid out and practice.
Absolutely they will, right? Last major mistake I would stay away from if you are trying to teach a kid any kind of mental skills from a young age, first and foremost, stop looking at what the pros do. Stop. Because LeBron James uses the Calm app. And unless your kid is using the Calm app, don't do it. Right? I mean, you need something tailored for these kids that are specific to their age and what they need. Like we said, principles and self-belief. That's all. That's what you need to mentally train a kid, and you need to repeat it consistently. That's why whenever we have our programs, they're linked down below. If you want to work with us or the Pocket Coach, we're teaching principles to young kids. That's what we're helping them with until the age of 11 years old, right? So looking at this all, simple rules of thumb that you can follow. Number one, make sure you're focusing on self-belief with these kids when they're younger. And number two, make sure that you're giving them principles that they can focus on, not specific theories that go down a well and trying to diagnose. They're kids, man. They're freaking kids. And if you can teach them the values they need to be a good person from a young age, it's going to be synonymous with building a resilient kid. It will. Especially if you're teaching them principles like, hey, mistakes are fine so long as you learn from it.
Yeah. Teach them how to learn and teach them that
how to think critically.
Problems aren't that big.
Problems aren't bad.
Not that they can't be solved.
Yes, everything can be. That's why if you want to build a more resilient kid, teach them, like to Chris's point. Like maybe we'll hit on that really quick to end off this episode.
I would get used to saying the phrase, it's okay.
Yeah, right. And obviously within context, but point is what Chris is trying to say, help them reframe things. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, one of the best things I'll never forget that my parents did for me was when the coach did tell me at 12 years old, I don't think you're good enough to ever make it as a soccer player, as a goalkeeper. And I used to tell people, well, that was one of the worst days ever. And my parents said, what are you talking about? It's one of the best days ever. That's when you decided to go be something and do something. So it's how you frame these things as well, right? If you want to build a resilient kid, help them understand, get clear on what they want, get clear on who they want to be, get clear on, if you want to work on something each month, but listen back to this episode. Like you need principles and you need concepts of building self-belief. That's all you need for kids. You don't need complex things. You don't need to try and go over the top and the best meditation. You don't need that as a kid. Kids can grasp this stuff if there's a skilled person there helping them. So with that being said, we are skilled people. There's a link down below if you would like to apply for our one-on-one coaching. And we do help kids as young as 5 years old. There is a link down below for the Molliteum Pocket Coach. That's more so for kids above the age of 12, right? There's a resilience profile down there. That does work for young kids, though, very young, because it's simple questions that you can help them with as a parent. And if you do want to get more free information like this, we have our newsletter down there, the Molliteum Insider. Now, this is an interesting one. That was another innovation we made. I'm going to look actually quickly on the board at the side. So there's going to be now coming into it 4 separate types of newsletters within this newsletter to bring you more value. We're going to be sending out in the next couple weeks a cool little free thing for just being a part of the newsletter that's usually valued at about $300, but we're giving it away to our members for free. So sign up now, get on that early bird list. There's also going to be some constant content coming out focused around different principles for athletes and building their mental toughness. That's what we've currently been doing. And then there's finally going to be some promotional stuff that we do in regards to our YouTube channel, our podcast, and just different kind of discounts and promotions that we have for some products coming out, which I'm really, really excited about. So check it all out. If you got value from this episode, please like, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, click the notification bell. Comment down below if you are on YouTube too. Leave us a rating if you're tuning in from, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps us grow, and just make sure to stay resilient, and we'll see you in the next one.